Yeah, a lot of terror because going out into the world, of course, was for me a huge fear. And yet, for whatever crazy reason, my soul came to do that. And it's been like a push and pull of, oh, yes, that's exactly what I, oh my God, run the other way. You don't want people seeing, all your flaws, you walk differently, you look different. It's like a major mirror for all the undeveloped parts of me. And
You're listening to KAren Swain, teacher of Deliberate Creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want.
Hi guys, Karen here from Accentuate the Positive. So great to be with you again for another conversation with inspired minds. Today on the show, Julie Genovese is my guest, a little person with a huge spirit. I interviewed Julie a few years ago on Accentuate the Positive Radio, and we had a fascinating conversation, which is on my website. Go to karenswain.com/Julie Genovese and you'll see both the conversations today. She's such a huge enlightened soul living in a tiny little body. Well, tiny compared to most, definitely tiny compared to me, and she's got so much wisdom to share. So we're going to have a conversation today all about how to find our joy, how to get back to joy again inside life's challenges. So it's going to be a great conversation. Let me tell you a little bit about Julie. Have to put the glasses on to read this. Julie Genovese is an inspirational speaker, creative soul coach, artist, mum, and best-selling author of her award-winning memoir, Nothing Short of Joy. It's endorsed by Wayne Dyer, Dr. Christine Northrop, Dr. Bernie Siegel, and Alan Cohen. Julie has been featured on TV and radio, including Anderson Cooper Live, NBS, and Oprah.com Radio with Gayle King. She earned her BA at Fine Arts with honours from Hamilton College, Clinton, New York. Julie also spent a semester at the Lacoste School of Arts in Lacoste, France, and at Rhodes Island School of Design. Being born a dwarf with defective arthritis was not the poison Julie originally believed. It became the cure. After desperate years of humiliation and shame, medical studies and operations, including 2 brain surgeries, Julie realised that the biggest thing standing in her way was her belief system. Happiness, it turned out, was dependent not on her circumstances, but on her response to them. As she began to view her challenges and sacred choices made by the soul, everything shifted. Julie now mentors spirit-led creatives on how to use self-expression to transform life's griefs and find your joy. She coaches, writes, paints from her New Jersey home where she lives with her husband and 2 sons. Julie is a member of the International Women's Writing Guild, Little People of America, and Skylands Homeschool Community. Find out more about Julie at nothingshortofjoy.com or connect with her on Facebook and Twitter. Woohoo! So great! So great to have you on the show again, Julie. It's such a blessing. It's such a blessing. Last year, well, it wasn't last year, it was a couple of years ago now when I interviewed you for ATP Radio, and I listened back to our conversation. Such a great conversation, such a wonderful conversation, but we spoke very much about identity and not allowing what you look like to determine how you feel, and getting caught up with what you think other people think of you. Like, that is just that's a great conversation, because I've just come back from a weekend at my brother's place, and they've got an 18-year-old daughter who yesterday morning, she's all dolled up to go to school with the full face of makeup to go to school.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought to myself driving home, I wish she could understand that all that has nothing to do with who she is. Do you know what I mean? It's like at school, you don't need to have your makeup on, but yet those teenagers think that what they look like is so important. It's so important in who they are. And I see somebody, who I saw talk recently? Nick Vujicic.
Oh, from your part of the world.
He is. You know, he's just a head and a torso. And yet his spirit, his personality, his is so huge that when you think of him, you don't think of what he looks like. I mean, and then you see him on video and you go, oh, that's right. He's got no arms and no legs. But his spirit is so huge. His love is so great. And that's how I think about you. Like, I've never met you in person, but your spirit and your heart is so huge that I think of you as this huge being.
Sometimes I feel bigger than I look.
Shall we just go over your story quickly for people that don't know it?
Yes. I have a type of dwarfism, so I'm only 4'3". I'm probably about Nick's height because he has an average torso and head, whereas I'm sort of all squished and proportional, yet everything is small. And my dwarfism really molded my life's path. Initially, I was exactly like your daughter and exactly really like most kids. I just didn't know it because there wasn't a lot of communication. I think it's getting a little better, but not as fast as we might like, thinking that I was so alone and so different. And that belief, or those many beliefs and belief system, the BS that I didn't belong, I come to discover was my greatest commonality with every other kid and adult, and that's part of our human journey to rediscover our divinity. And just like me, I watch my 15-year-old, and I wish that he weren't so concerned with what people think. And then I realized, well, I can't stop him from that path. That's why we're here. So if you stopped your daughter and eliminated this challenge for her, you'd also eliminate the gift of going through it and rediscovering the strength, the adaptability, the connection to our own spirit that we find through that steamroller of experience. So we can't take it from them. We can't carry it for them. We can only carry the light that we are and hope that they, because of that example, start to look inside themselves and less to the outer world. That's all of our journey. So we're really so, we're all equals here, whether, we're tiny or have no arms and legs or big or different color, religion, gender, whatever it is. All of that is small compared to the bigness of the spirits that connect us.
Yeah, beautifully said, so well said. And I think the journey of life is to allow that bigness of who we are to expand and to show more and more, regardless of how fat you get or how old you get or how broken you get, physically broken, you know what I mean? Like, the package has nothing to do with the light inside.
And in actuality, the brokenness is often what brings the light out. And I think that's part of why we don the flesh, why we take on the amnesia. It's very scary. We are very brave. It takes a lot of courage to be born and to suppress everything that is true and live these lies. As young children, I think we're pretty connected to our vulnerability, our joy, and our wonder, and then slowly it gets stomped on and things happen and we get jaded, and somewhere along the way, and it's often through trauma and loss and difficulties that we're sort of whacked on the head so hard that we go, okay, there's got to be something better than this, and we start looking outside. Well, what is it? Is it money? Is it appearance? Is it this? And when none of that satisfies, which it won't forever, we start going inside and start looking for what is truly me, what's eternal about me or you or all of us that can't be taken away, can't get old, can't get broken, remains joyful and wholehearted no matter what darkness we bump into, and no one is unscathed by this life. But I think that's what we came for. We came to kind of get knocked around, and even though we fight it, and I do too, I still do, even though I keep seeing that silver lining, darn, there it is again, I will still fight it at times and won't believe it, and I lose faith, and then I go, what are you doing? So I think that that's what we got a ticket for, and that's the ride we're on. So we might as well go, oh yeah, you and me, we're all doing it. We're all in this together.
Look, I want to talk about finding your joy again, especially as someone who teaches it, because, you know, you teach it, I teach it. And I think that when people, especially our kids, I remember Wayne Dyer talking once about his kid. He couldn't find something, and he was rampaging around the house screaming and yelling, and his kid said, if your fans could see you now, you know, the guru who's not supposed to get upset or angry or down.
Yep. Mr. Positivity.
Mr. Positivity. And my daughter says that to me all the time. You're such a hypocrite, you know, you're not happy all the time. And it's like, you just don't want to be happy all the time, because, you know, the ride of life is the variety, the deliciousness of the roller coaster ride, the ups and the downs. You know, the ups wouldn't feel so great if you didn't have the downs.
Right. And as Abraham Hicks would say, it is that contrast that actually gifts us with the expansion. But if we're busy looking at the contrast that gifted us, we will not take the expansion. And so meanwhile, we're blaming that thing and that person and that bankruptcy and that divorce, and our soul is going, woohoo! It's off already, going, we've benefited from that, we've taken our strength, we have creative new ideas, but we're going, oh, and it's us. It's our vision that's stopping us. It's not all the rascals who stomped on us. It's the fact that we won't turn and go, oh, my soul is ever joyful, ever growing, won't ever get it done, and that's fine. Always stretching and happy to do so, instead of our human is going, what, now? And that fear or that ego, I've been dealing a lot with my own sense of, I don't know, sort of self-importance, like I can do that, like how you do everything for your events, you know, that kind of feeling that a lot of women feel like, well, but I can do it, I'm like Wonder Woman. And meanwhile, why do we do that? But our spirit is big like that, so of course it's tempting to want to take it all on, and as mothers, we're used to, like, you know, doing 500 things at once. So, but that is part of what the contrast is teaching us, is to move forward with grace, not with overwhelm and trying to figure it all out, or, you know, do it all in one day.
Yeah. So tell me, so you started to look inside. I know that it's all, if you want to hear Julie's story, we discussed it all quite in depth on the last interview, so I'll post it on the same page this is posted on. But you started to look inside and find your joy, and then you set forth as a teacher, wrote a book about it, nothing short of joy, and you've been out there on stage speaking to hundreds, thousands of people. What's been happening in the last couple of years? Have you been doing more of that? What have you been up to?
Yeah, a lot of terror because going out into the world, of course, was for me a huge fear. And yet, for whatever crazy reason, my soul came to do that. And it's been like a push and pull of, oh yes, that's exactly what I do. Oh my God, run the other way. You don't want people seeing, you know, all your flaws, you walk differently, you look different. It's like a major mirror for all the undeveloped parts of me. But that's what I'm speaking about. So what the heck? I might as well do it in front of thousands and get the message out there, because I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I've got parts of me and things going on that, like a friend of mine used to say, well, someone will look at you and go, there by the grace of God go I. And I thought, wait, I don't find that complimentary. But what she meant was that for those of us who have a visible handicap or difference, it's a teaching just to, like Nick Vujicic, who shows people that when you see the spirit of him, you stop focusing on just the form, and that this is a blindfold, and to get past it is really important. So I have that offering. When I get on stage, people look at me and they're like, well, okay, who's this? And then when I speak and they realize, oh, I'm just like her, we're not that different, there's a learning in that. It doesn't matter what words I say. This is what I tell myself, when I fumble on my own words. It doesn't matter the exact things I say or even do. There's an understanding, I believe, from soul to soul of what we all, came to learn. And that we don't need to be limited by our form or by what we do, our success or lack of it, but that there's something far deeper. I can't always touch it. I can't always connect with it. I'm not happy 24/7 or anything like that. But in the presence of a bigger audience, something happens that I can communicate and help and inspire in a way that, defies my fear. And so I keep doing it because I know I need to face that. And cause I find the courage on the other side, and I go, oh, well, if I can do that. So when we push ourselves a little, I don't mean, because sometimes I push myself and it's not it's not coming from my soul, it's coming from the ego, like,
work ethic.
I've got to do more. Yeah, the whipping. It's not that. It's the willingness to face the fear. Like Eleanor Roosevelt said, you must do the thing you think you cannot.
Yeah.
And
fear of public speaking is supposed to be one of the biggest fears in the world.
Yeah.
So you're not alone with that.
I'm not alone in that, I know.
You're not alone. But the thing about fear of public speaking is it is all wrapped up with what will you think of me? And that
Exactly.
And that is a torturous thought. I mean, what do you think of me? Who gives a crap what anyone thinks of you? What do you think of you?
Yeah, exactly. And something about being able to deliver that message over and over, and to remind myself as well, and that once I get talking, I am fine. Yeah. The fear is gone. Yeah. So I know I'm aligned with my higher purpose. When I do that, it's dealing with the days and weeks in between when we're faced with these old little fears, not so little, that tortured us when we were young. It's the thoughts that we suffered under these thoughts that we're not enough, or what someone else thinks is more important than what we think. Big lessons, it's not a great word, but messages that we are learning again and again, and they just don't get old.
Yeah, look, it's so true. It's so true. I did a bit of a healing meditation the other day, and I went back into my childhood because I was dealing with some blocks, for a better word, not the best word, but some resistant beliefs. There's a better word.
Yeah.
Better word. Resistant beliefs that were showing up in my life as circumstance.
Yes, they do.
Over and over and over and over again. And when I think I've overcome them, when I think I've healed them, and I set forth gung-ho into the world, right? And then it just keeps coming back. It keeps coming back in every way. And I just shook my head and went, oh my God, this is such a stubborn son of a bitch.
Yes, yeah. And the judgment is ginormous. And that, again, is what we are always learning, how to sort of release that ego,
release it, yeah. But I went back and I went into a childhood home. I was probably about between 7 and 10, I think. I can't remember the age, and I went through the house and I felt the energy in the house, and it was just so bad. Like there was so much trauma in that place. There was just, and you know, that all those beliefs that I was living with was imprinting on me. And I thought I'd healed all the childhood stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's kind of like we revisit it, like we move forward and we have success. We get over our fear of public speaking, and then we set forth to serve the world and heal the planet. Yay! And then that old friend, you know, that old limiting belief comes up and looks us in the face and says, okay, so you've moved forward and you're a new you. How are you going to deal with me now? And then you move forward and then it comes back. How are you going to deal with me now? It just, for me, keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And I'm just scratching my head going, how do I get rid of you? But we had a bit of a technical problem.
We did. We sailed through it without issue. We have new light.
I was having a bit of a rave and it just cut out. The screen just cut.
I get it. I've been through my old house and the same thing. I was going to say, like, thoughts become things, and they glom onto us when we revisit that stuff. And we think we've got it all healed, and whoops.
Yeah, well, I think the last thing I was saying is I wanted to get rid of this limiting thought form, but maybe I just need to love it and stop trying to fix it. You know, just love it and say, oh, hello, old friend. But it is around money, and it's really hard when you find yourself without money. And it's like, oh, hello, old friend. Here I am again, having done it a million times, where money comes in and then I'm stony broke again. And I'm like, oh, my God, how did I do that to myself again? Yeah. So, but I have to say, revisiting those old thought forms, those old belief systems from my childhood, it was really wrapped around money is the root to all evil and all that stuff. You know, we have so many ideas imprinted on us about money, and I think I'm not alone with the whole money issue. People seem to have a lot. You know, there are some people in the world that just have it fly in the door like it's so easy, and then
I mean, I've heard and certainly known people where that does not stop the worrying, and it does not stop the fear. It may look easier to us, but it just means their responsibilities in one sense are larger there. So I don't know, money's a big issue. I love the expression, money is divine exchange. And when we don't feel that what we're exchanging is somehow worthy enough, or we've worked hard enough, that it gets limited. It starts to, like drip in instead of flow in. And I go through the same periods of where it's easier and then harder. And I think most people do. Yeah. So it's a universal, money is the symbol of our worthiness. And then it gets wrapped up in all these moral issues of, is it divine? Is it spiritual? Are we good enough? Does it represent success? That's a big issue. No, but on the other hand, my little kid thinks it does.
Well, exactly. And the paradigm is, if you're making a lot of money, you're successful. I mean, that's the paradigm. Success equals money. Success equals money. And yet you can make a lot of money. And I know a lot of people that do. I know a lot of people that make it, inherit it, win it, whatever. Yeah. And boy, some of them are happy and having a great time, but boy, some of them are miserable. So is success lots of money? No. But is success joy?
Yeah. And the world doesn't necessarily reward character or joy or happiness as something enviable, because there's this sense of, but only if I had that money, that job, that relationship, that health, that body, only if I had that, then I could be happy. And we have it backward. It's the joy that brings in the ease toward those things. That if we think those things are going to bring us a sense of fulfillment and richness, it's actually the opposite. But that's not what we're taught in school. We're taught, you tick all the boxes, you work hard, and that's where you get your money, and yet that's not working for a lot of us who work hard.
Look, this is the mantra of every conversation I have and everything I teach. Go for the joy first, go for the joy first.
Yeah.
The joy, the happiness is within you. It's connection to your spirit. It's connection to your soul. It's connection to your creativity. But no, but what that looks like in the world, like you can sit and meditate for the rest of your life, but you know, you need to sort of do. So for you, how did you find your joy? So you read your books and you knew you had to go for your joy. What was your steps? Like, what did you do to find the joy?
I had to, you mean changing my belief system? Because that's...
Not so much changing your belief system, because you have to change your belief system, but then once you've changed your belief set, you've got to set for, like, you've got to do something with your life. Like, what's joyful to me?
Right. Well, for me, it was through my creativity.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's such a natural part of who I am, and it's a human part of all of us. Obviously, we are all creators, but my creativity and artwork and later my writing has been such a savior in my life, and yet I tend to totally forget that has been part of my process. And for many folks like us and conscious creatives, we find healing in doing in our activity through creative work. So it doesn't have to be artwork. It doesn't have to be the traditional, singing, dancing. It's our thinking outside the box, allowing our spirit to come in and do what, say, scares us, but what calls us. For me, speaking on stage and fearing everything that happened to me as a child, and the humiliation and the laughter and the, oh my God, all of that, facing that is a challenge, but a really rewarding one. And the reason that happened was because I began to write my book. And I began to write my book in order to heal. It was therapy. I never imagined I would share my greatest shame with the world. That wasn't on my bucket list, but that became the path to the next thing and the next thing, and then feeling greater belief in myself, and then in writing Wayne Dyer and getting his endorsement, and then he invites me on stage. So each thing, I couldn't have laid it out, but somewhere as we are sort of logging what's going on, I believe, and all these invisible forces are working with us and starting to blaze the trail for us and light the fire. So it was giving time to my creative work, which was my art. And then when I couldn't do that because of the arthritis in my shoulder, it became the writing. Then the artwork came back. So it's like, what's the next thing that brings me a sense of joy and accomplishment? There's a little bit of fear generally involved, like, can I do this? But each time I feel a greater sense of myself, and that myself is, you, and is my audience, and they're not my enemies, they're my friends I've never met. And that universal connection becomes lit up more often. I still forget it. We are very forgetful, but I get to experience it through my creativity, continued healing. Like you're saying, you're looking back at your childhood and things come flying at you. As long as we don't judge it and we sit with it in love, it doesn't hang on. It's just one more thing like you get to share with everyone else who's human and goes, all right, I do that too. I judge. I get down on myself. I fall on my own sword. And then we get back up and go, you know what? But what brings me joy? My creativity. What brings you joy? It's different for every person. Yeah. But we have a memory of it from our childhood that we can tap into that was buried under the pain. So if you let the pain have its way, have it say, grieve what needs to be grieved, then underneath that is that wonder that wants to, live through us. That child who wants to live, in a more lighthearted way.
It's interesting that you say that, because I was revisiting this sort of traumatic part of my childhood, and it was all negative. And I said to my guides, because they were showing me like a movie. It was kind of like a life review.
Ooh.
And I'm looking at all this, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, no wonder. Oh, wow. And then I said, oh, come on, guys. Show me a time when I felt happy, when I felt free, because I just saw misery. And they showed me at a party. I had a little party. I was probably about 8 or 9. And we had a dance competition. And they showed me going for it, like... I just like in that moment I thought, I don't care what anyone thinks, I'm just going to go for it, dance like nobody's looking.
Yeah.
I had a moment of doing that, and I remembered that I had this memory, and I went, there you go. And as you get older, you stop moving as much. And I thought, oh gee, this is wow, like if my joy is in the dancing, I have not danced in years.
No? How about just in your kitchen?
Yeah.
That's what I do. My kids walk in and they're like, oh, geez, Mom. But I mean, it's not going to stop me and my body does not move the way, my joints have arthritis, but I don't care because it is so joyful. And when a new song, I remember when Pharrell Williams' Happy song came on, and I was like, every time it came on, bouncing around, and that I think will take us to that higher place where the ideas do flow and the money does flow and things make sense, and suddenly all that stuff we complain about looks very small.
Yeah, more dancing.
I say. Next time we talk, I want to hear that you've been doing a bit of jitterbug and Do you have music in some part of your house where you can really crank it up? And
yeah, like on radio on Saturday mornings, but I'm seated. I crank the music up and I have a bop, but I'm always in my seat, I'm in my seat. It's not like but sometimes when I have guests in the studio and we're really rocking to the music, the two of us will get up. It's a tiny studio, but we'll sort of shuffle around the studio.
So you have danced. All right.
I wouldn't say really danced. But let me ask you about the pain. How are you dealing with the pain? Because you've mentioned a few times you've got arthritis. So that's obviously a part of the condition that your physical body, has. Yeah. How do you deal with the pain in your body?
Well, over the years it has, instead of getting worse, it plateaued, and I have better times and not great times, but this body gets me where I want to go, and I feel, I never would have imagined I could say this with all my heart, that I love this little fleshy, blobby body for all it's done and all it's been through. There are times where I feel tearful because I can't believe how much I hated my form as a child and a young adult, and I have my days where I get frustrated that I can't, I watch my kids, they get their shoes and socks on, and he said, oh, boop, boop, they're gone, and I think, oh, they don't realize I would give anything to do that, and I think, well, no, not anything, because we are here to learn to love what appears to be unlovable, and to bear what's difficult, and bear witness to that, and still whatever life delivers or our soul chooses to find the light in it, and there's so much capacity in us. Like Nick Vujicic, he doesn't have arms or legs. He swims, he golfs, he has found ways to help himself get dressed. He's proud of himself when he's learning to drive a car. Mm-hmm. So, and he's 30-something, he's never driven a car and never had that independence. So we're always further challenged. And so I assume that my joints, I don't know what the future will bring. I hope it's not more surgeries, but I won't fight it either. I think, though, living the way I live with more and more love for life in all its expressions and all its challenges, that my joints can be more and more relaxed, and I don't experience pain all the time or anything like that. So
do you ever oh, getting feedback. We're having some technical issues today, aren't we? I would blame it on Eric. Anyway, do you ever think when you're in those moments of not having pain, you know, what am I believing or what am I thinking at this moment? And when you are in pain, can you find that vibration again? Because I had a client the other day that was saying that she's in a lot of pain. She had a terrible accident. She's in a lot of pain, and dealing with pain is difficult, you know?
Yes. Yeah. But yes, there absolutely is, of course, there's lessons in recognizing where our vibration is still low and is still stuck. And I don't think we necessarily have to go searching for what it is. I did that for many years, you know, always looking, wow, it must be this, it must be that. And meanwhile, you know, forgetting to live joyfully. So beyond the pain, there are plenty of worthwhile distractions and purposeful things that bring us joy. And the belief that joy will relieve the pain is not necessarily taught, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
You know, finding and searching out what's going to really light us up on any given day or any given moment is a huge leap of faith. Mm-hmm. Because often for me, I need a lot of alone time, a lot of solitude and quiet, and which is difficult as a mother. But I take days where I go to the park and I sit by the pond, and they are just the most fabulous days. And my kids will say, "So, what did you do at the pond?" And I'm just communing with the life, and it's so fabulous. I never have pain at the pond.
Wow, there you go.
It's things like that where you're really living in this, like, happy for no reason because birds are singing, and there's a great blue heron out on the pond who walks with such grace and stillness. I'm overwhelmed by this present moment love of the life in front of me, and nothing historic is going on. But it's so powerful. It's so powerful, and I know that that's the greatest remedy for inner pain or trauma, is this recognition of this gorgeous life that we are privileged to live, no matter what the trauma, you know, that you've been through, that I've been through. Those things are not, they're illusions that we are learning from. They are not our true selves.
Gratitude and appreciation is the remedy to any dis-ease.
Exactly, yeah. And good old Mother Nature, who's just the most glorious. I mean, when you look at our world, I'm agog. It's so darn beautiful.
Yeah, it's true.
So beautiful. And when we sit inside our houses and just focus on our pain, we forget this big wide world. My son used to call it in the whole wide water, he'd say. There's nothing better in the whole wide water. And I knew what he meant. You know, we are mostly water. The world is mostly water. It's just like watching life is blissful to me. And sometimes I forget, but
yeah. But even, how old are your children now? 15 and
11 and 15.
And they're a miracle too, because I think the doctors told you that wasn't possible for you when you were
young.
They're
a miracle. Well, they never said that per se. I interpreted that because there was so much negativity around me as a child, particularly in the medical world.
Yeah.
So I made a lot of assumptions that children, husband, career, all of those things were just not to be for me. So they didn't say that explicitly. And then when I was pregnant, I found a great doctor who was laid back, not an alarmist, he was a traditional doctor, but he just, he said, well, I'll put you on the high risk list, but you're not really high risk. And, he was great. So, you find your partners in life that are going to look in the direction you want to go, that this is a creation that's possible, and by golly, 2 healthy kids, and it's miraculous. Any child is a miracle, but yes, I feel particularly blessed about that one.
Yeah. And how are you finding being a mother of an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old? Because that's a challenge in itself.
Yeah, that, like you were saying about your daughter, I have to just, when I want to tell them things that only experience will teach them, and I, as their mom, of course, I want to save them from that pain of being a teenager. Well, who am I kidding? Because you can't save people from what they came to learn. And I can't stop them. Like my mom once said, I really missed the boat with you. I really, because we didn't communicate much about my issues. And she came to realize that was really difficult. I didn't have the words to describe my condition, let alone do anything about it. But when I realized it over time, I said, if you had taken that huge hurdle away from me, I would have missed out on so much that I came to understand, because I was left to, and I ended up in the business of communication. It's ironic, because there was lack of communication for most of us, of many generations. And then, that catalyst, that contrast, left me asking and wanting and leaning toward that heart-to-heart true communication. So you never know why the darkness visits, but it will show. It will show you eventually the gift it has.
Ooh, I love that. The darkness visits, but with it comes a gift.
Yeah.
With every darkness comes a beautiful gift. I remember once, and I've said this many times on interviews, when my daughter was about 15, she was doing drama. She was breaking up with a boyfriend, and she was doing drama, and I was trying to alleviate her pain by giving her some words of wisdom. And she just turned around at me and she said, "Let me have my drama."
Yeah, don't try and take that darkness from me.
Don't try to take that. I said to her, "You were happy before you had the boyfriend. You can still be happy, without him." And she goes, "I know that, but let me have my drama." Yeah, so she understood that there is the experiences that we go through, the drama, the pain, it has benefit.
Yeah, and you were right. You're absolutely right in your truth, but it only becomes her truth as a result of experience.
Yeah.
So I often try and, put my big old nose in their business and try and hopefully, save them from some issues I went through. Well, I mean, really, I don't know that I'm big enough to do that. I can't insert my life experiences into theirs before they're fully capable of carrying that and loving that and really understanding it. But boy, does that take a lot of patience and, just zipping it.
But let me ask you, are your kids proud of you? Are they like, my mom, teaches people and, look at her, or how do they deal with it? Because, I remember when my daughter was a teenager, I was the hippie, spiritual, new age person, and she was embarrassed. She was embarrassed about her mum because I thought differently to other people. I lived differently to other people. Yeah. I was different. I looked the same, but I was different. And you've got a couple of differences going on because you think differently to other people and you look different to most people. So how do your kids, are they proud of the differences or what's going on there?
Well, I remember, for example, the first time I was on TV.
Yeah.
My husband told me that he was in the living room. Our neighbor, who was maybe 9 at the time, a friend of theirs, was in front of the TV with him, all ready to watch me. My kids were off playing video games, They were like, whatever. Didn't seem at all interested. I thought, what is that about? They just sort of walked by and went, oh yeah, there she is. So I don't know. They kind of take it for granted. I remember there was a new child in the neighborhood years ago when my oldest was, I don't know, he was probably 8. And I walked outside and I saw the new kid, and I immediately, like, my antenna went up, uh-oh, this one's trouble. I could just tell. And I walked over, I had to give my son something, and as I turned, I heard the new kid say, "Is that your mother?" And my son looked at him, and because I turned to see what he'd say and to support whatever, and he said, "Oh, yeah, she's a dwarf." And he just said it like, yeah, she's blonde. It was no big deal. He didn't feel defensive. I was so proud of that, because I've wondered, gosh, are my kids going to end up, kind of like ready to defend me or feel weird because I'm different? They don't seem to. I don't ever see that come back up on them. I'd say the thing that they roll their eyes over is when I stick my nose in their business too soon. Like the other day, my son said, "I know you're going to say I should just be happy I can still breathe," or something like that. And I went, uh-oh. I have clearly not, just allowed him his feelings. I tried to give him positive reasons why he shouldn't be upset about that, sneaker that he wants to buy or something. So, yeah, I'm just mom. I don't seem to be an embarrassment, but they certainly have their times where they want their distance and independence, and as they should.
Yeah. Well, you're just that normal mum embarrassment, like you say, rolling out, "Oh, Mom, telling me what to do again. Mom knows."
Tell me again, I'm normal. You're just normal.
Because, my daughter's an adult now, so all that great advice that I gave her when she was young and she rolled her eyes at it, now she really wants to know. And when she has her children, she'll be even more eager to know.
Boy, that is the truth. Yeah. I am so now appreciative and wowed by my mom and everything, and I tell her regularly, I say, that's because of you that I'm able to be patient, or that's because of you. And I realize how difficult it is. And of course, we don't know that until we're in that position. So they won't necessarily appreciate as much until they bump into those things that I have. I mean, at 18, that she wants your advice, I think is fantastic.
No, 18's my niece. My daughter's like in her mid-20s now, but the niece was the one with the makeup, and she doesn't. She does not want my advice. She does not want my advice at all. No, not at all. She knows everything. She's got her ways. But I was looking at her thinking, I wish I could tell her. I wish I could show her that she doesn't need to wear a full mask, a mask of makeup to school, but she goes to a co-ed school, so there are boys there, but it's all about what, it's all about what the boys think.
Oh, yeah. And competition and terrible comparison that goes on in school, not just with your grades, but with everything.
Yeah.
So in a way, in her mind, she does need that makeup. She does need that armor.
That's it.
Because that's her, her worth. Her worth is involved in that. It was for me as well.
Yep.
Hard to watch, but
it's hard to watch because it's so free when you don't put your worth in what you look like, and you put your worth in how you feel. Who you are, and yeah. So freeing. Oh, beautiful. So what's coming up for Julie Genovese?
What's coming up? My next, I'm speaking at a elementary school, and then I'm speaking at a homeschooling conference. That's always exciting, because we sort of live outside the box that way too, because we're not in traditional schools. We're part of a co-op, and we live a much more free lifestyle than the other kids in our neighborhood, and sometimes that's different.
Tell me how the co-op works. I'm not sure what a co-op is.
A co-op, there are lots of different types, but this one is just the kids get together once a week. They take some classes. They socialize. We have, holidays and parties. They do some art. We have special, science experiments, and it's very eclectic. So the moms all contribute. We all teach a class or 2 or 3. We sign up, and it's lovely. I mean, I wish life worked this way, where we were communally raising our children, like, because it does take a village, and we're all kind of living in our insular little homes when really moms desperately need each other's support and advice, and to see that they're not alone and or weird or doing it all wrong. Like, we all think that. So our school systems are so troubled that when my kids were little, I just couldn't see putting them there, and slowly realized that, oh, so homeschooling, there are a lot of homeschoolers in New Jersey and really across the country now because of the school issues. So hopefully schools will catch up to, learning becoming about a joyful process instead of a you must do that and you must do that, and force and coercion will go out the window, and it'll be again about discovery and partnership and the wonderful things in this life that could be a part of learning again and education, that we've just lost them, all for the sake of competition and the mighty dollar and the career, and we've forgotten the process of living and the habit of joy. It just gets dumped.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're trying to...
Well, I think that the kids coming in, they're the ones that are changing the school systems, because they're the ones that are just so demanding it. They call them ADD, but they're just strong-willed. They know what they want, and they know how to get it, and then they push against a system that doesn't work, and people say that they're ADD, but they're So it's a slow process, I know, changing, but we need to change our education systems. I mean, I'm an old bag now, and it needed to be changed 40 years ago when I was there.
If you're an old bag, then I am.
I'm older than you.
Yeah, but you're no bag. I haven't heard that expression in the longest time. That's fun.
Oh, you're going to love Australianisms. So when are you going to come down under, Julie?
Yes, next month. I'm jetting over, my own personal plane, and you and I paint the town pink, Set it all up for me, babe. I'm coming.
Oh, look, I speak to so many amazing people in the States. I'd love to get you all down under. I'm going to work that out one day. I'm going to work out how to get you all down under, have a bit of a party down under, and have a conscious day of, I don't know, we'll have to find a word, we'll have to find a title for it, but... Yeah. Have a delicious day of traveling.
Well, I know those events kind of knock you out, and so you would need massive amounts of helpers and minions so that you didn't have to kill yourself in order to have one good day. That's not worth it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it gets smoother the more you do it, I suppose. It's been so beautiful to chat with you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful to be together. It feels like it was just last month.
I know. Sister,
now that we're talking again.
A sister from another mister.
Yeah! That's what it is!
Soul sister. Thanks again, honey, for being on Accentuate the Positive.
Thank you, Karen. You are my fabulous doll. Love you.
Bye for now.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, Blissful Beings, go to KarenSwain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on KarenSwain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
If you feel like that.